my second sew along. It's really exciting. It's actually for this shell top. When I first made this, I got quite a lot of love for it, and I got quite a few questions as well on the pattern. So we are going to be creating this lovely shell top. So I'll stand up so you can see. So it's a pretty straight construction. It's sleeveless, and then at the back we have a nice little opening where you can use a hook and eye, or you can use a rouleau loop. The pattern we will be using comes from this one of the sewing bee books, Fashion with Fabric, and it is the sleeveless shell top we're working with. So it doesn't actually recommend viscose or rayon or anything as one of the fabrics to use for it. However, this is a viscose crepe and it worked really, really well. And this is one of my favourite things, if not my favourite thing I've ever made. What you will need for this is about a metre, just over. The pattern says 1.5, but I definitely got it out of a metre last time. Of fabric of your choice. The pattern recommends cotton lawn, poplin, gingham. What I found here is that a viscose crepe works really well, and I'll be using proper just viscose today because I want to experiment with it slightly. So this is the fabric I'll be using. I need to give it an iron first, but it's like a really pretty spot. It's kind of cream. It's gorgeous. I love it. The other thing we need today is some lightweight interfacing. Now I'm not actually going to use interfacing. What I do instead is you just double up, so I'll cut 2 of the facings, stitch them together, and then use them as a facing. Because I find particularly with very lightweight fabrics, it produces a nicer effect. That's what I did with this top. The facings sit really flat, but they're not bulky, which I really like. So I'm going to give this an iron, and then we'll do some pattern cutting, but I'm looking forward to it. We have laid out our pattern pieces. There we go, it's not many. I've managed to really tightly squeeze my pattern out of this. It literally is about a metre, my remnant, so slightly playing fabric chicken, but I think we're doing okay. So if I show you, we've got our front facing here, which is on the fold. I've double folded the end so I can get 2, because as I explained earlier, I'm not going to be interfacing. I'll just double up because it does, in my opinion, make it sit better, although this is not a great example because I've been sat pinning in it, so it's written up a bit. And then we have our back piece that we cut 2 of, which has got this really nice sort of flaring end, which gives a really flattering finish. And then we have our front piece over here. There is literally 1 dart in this entire pattern, which I love. And then we have our back facing over here that again we will cut 2 of, and then I will cut another 2 down here. But I've had to sort of squeeze things in to make sure that we can fit everything. So I'm going to do some pattern cutting now, and then we're going to transfer markings together. So we've got now to transfer marking. So as I say, there's only 1 dart in this, which is quite nice, quite refreshing. But there's quite a few little markings because of the facings. We're just gonna snip wherever there needs to be one. Now, everyone does markings differently. So some people do tailor's chalk, some people just do all the little snips, some people transfer everything, some people transfer absolutely nothing. I kind of walk my own line here because there's some things I don't transfer, there's some things I do. So when I first started, I would pretty much transfer everything. Generally now, all I do is a little snip at the base of each dart, and then what I will do, I'll put a tiny dot at the end of the dart, and then I can measure it and make sure it's right. So there we go, that should be all of our markings. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine and get going. We need to stitch our neck facings. Now this is really important because it's the key feature, is this lovely scoop neck and then the really neat back. It's so important. So especially as well if you're working with a very light fabric like I am that is prone to warp or stretch. So we're going to stay stitch on the machine, my machine towards me, and we will get going. So we're going to stay stitch 1 centimetre in, or 3/8 of an inch. I have filled my bobbin for this because last time I ran out a couple of times while I was hemming and it drove me insane. So I have probably the fullest bobbin I've ever had. So let's do some stay stitching. Now with stay stitching you want to make sure you do not back stitch. That's not why we're here. This is just to keep your neckline nice and secure so it doesn't warp while you're working the garment. So we're going to line it up it down. Also in my last video I complained that sometimes the thread came out when I lowered the needle. I discovered why that was. It was a tension issue, so although the standard tension on a Singer is 5, I've knocked mine down to 4 and I've made sure I've thread the machine really carefully and now it's stopped happening. So if you have a Singer, check your thread tension. So let's go. Being slow and careful. And I'm doing it on one of the back facing pieces first. I have also got a very hot iron ready to fix these. So as we're stitching a curve, we're going nice and slowly. Doesn't matter which side you do this on because eventually it'll be under the facing. So it doesn't really matter. Just make sure you do it evenly and carefully. Go, very gently pulling that out to break, and there we have a lovely neat line of stitching. So really important, we're now going to do that to the other back piece and the main neckline, and then it's on. I am now going to give my pattern pieces an iron. I'm also going to cut off any little loose threads that might get in the way. Because we'll be binding these edges, I like to do it as I go. But obviously be very careful, and then we're going to give them a little iron. So lots of steam with Viscose, and then off you to look at that. One thing I was thinking earlier when I looked at this fabric is I was like, oh god, I wish I've got, well I hope I've got thread that matches it. And then in the depths of my box I uncovered a whole spool of cream thread. Now it's perfect for this project, it's ideal, but I cannot think for the life of me why I have it. I've never bought anything that, like I've never made anything, sorry, or bought any fabric that would necessitate it. So whilst it's incredibly useful and I'm glad I've got it, I have no idea why. So yeah, that was a slightly confusing experience. Now here we go, lovely. And now we're going to move on to, in a second, the main piece, and we're going to do our darts together. I was going to time lapse them, and then I thought, actually, it's one of the only proper techniques on this. We want to make sure that we talk about that. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about darts, you know, horrible, complex, love them, hate them. Let me know, because it's always really interesting to see how everyone feels about certain techniques. Like, I personally quite like darts, but I find waist darts can be irritating to make sure they don't go up too high and give you like a weird kind of Madonna-ish pointy boob. It's not really a vibe of mine. But I love perfect darts, mine just rarely are. So here we go. We have got our lovely front piece, and I'm just going to press in the neckline, stay stitching. Right, now we're going to do the darts. So I'm going to flip it over very carefully, and I have marked with a tailor's pencil my dart end point. So here we are. I'll bring you guys over. Now I've both done something quite stupid and quite clever. What I mean by that is, you'll see this is spotty fabric, and one of the spots is pink, and I have used my pink tailor's chalk, which may not have been the brightest idea in the world. However, this fabric's so see-through that I didn't want to use a colour like blue that potentially wouldn't wash out, and then I'd have two random blue spots on the end of my darts. So if I look down here, there is one of my end dart spots, and there is the other. So I'm going to construct these darts, fold inwards with that as the end point, and then we're going to go stitch them. Now what I tend to do is I pinch one side, pinch the other, and just first of all kind of see what we get. So I've got two little notches here that I'll match, and what I will do is pop a pin in there,
and I'll put one on the other side just while we're working. So that is definitely matched. I'm trying not to pin too much because this is such fine fabric, but also it needs to be pinned. And there's our point up there. So our top pin is marking the upside, so I'm then going to pop a pin in right there. So that now marks the end of our dart. Now I'm going to line this out flat. This looks a little bit insane, but it is how I do them, and it tends to end up fairly well. So that's our dart there laid out. Now I'm going to go along. Many pins as you need, because this bit will then be hidden. To almost draw a line with your pins. Now, I can see I need to change the angle of this one at the bottom. I remember doing this the first time. So it's pointing slightly up, and then that means I can adjust. It's like drawing a dotted line. This is my favourite way. You can actually draw a line if you want to with like tailor's chalk, and I have done that on darker fabrics before. But on this, I do not have the confidence it will wash out, and I don't want to mark this. It's so gentle and light. So I'm now going to press this, but I'm not going to, just going to give it a bit of an edge so it stands out. There we go, and that is my first dart. So as you can see, the kind of test for me is if I fold it over, it should then fit in line with the fabric at the edge. So there, which it does, so it follows the garment line as it should. We have one continuous garment line. So I'm now going to sew my darts with you guys. So my darts got a lovely point on them. I always think of them like little shark fins, I quite like them. And I'm going to start at the end of the dart. Make sure that my fabrics are together. I'm going to start there. I'm going to take out my first pin now. And very, very, very gently, because I'm working with the slippiest thing ever, line it up. And I'm actually going to put my needle down before I put the foot down to make sure, yes, that I am in the right place. Good. So that's my kind of, I take the pin out, but then I do this bit. And then we pop the foot down, and I want to make sure my line of pins is lined up with the middle. So this will take me a second, but it works well. So I'm going to gently, again, I don't backstitch on darts because they're normally A, enclosed within seams anyway, and B, sometimes it can pull the dart out of shape, which you don't want. So I'm keeping it dead on course. And we take the pin out. And now comes the super concentration moment to make sure we end and taper straight off the fabric on that line. And we're going to do it, I think. Yay! Beautiful. Again, super gentle. I actually roll my needle back slightly so I can get a little bit more play of the fabric. We don't want to gather by accident on the dart. So there we go, beautiful. We got one side, the dart folds straight down and it's in line, which is lovely. Starts now, and then we'll show you, so we've basically done the front of the top, which is very exciting. So I've tilted you towards the ironing board so you can see. I'm gonna iron, you want your darts to face down. I always iron the dart one way and then I iron it back so that you kind of fixed both sides of the stitches. And let's pop over to the other side. So there we go. So now we have a nice top with two side darts there. It's very high necked because it will come down with the facings, but that is the front of our top so far. Good morning everyone, we're on day 2 of this vlog. I should quickly explain, this top does not take 2 days to make. I'm actually working full time at home, so I'm trying to fit my sewing around my work.
So yeah, just in case you're like, why is it taking 2 days? It is an easy 1-day sew. I think it took me like max 6 hours the first time. So really, really simple, easy project. Now, today, and hopefully this morning before my meeting, we are going to attach the back and the bodice together. We're gonna interface, interline, or stitch together our facings, and then we're gonna join them, and then really we've only got a couple of steps left. So let's try and get the bodice together and the facings sorted. Our top is attached. We've sewed the seams together at the top, 1.5 cm seam allowance, and then we've pressed the seam open like so to make the shell of our top. So we've got the front is attached, and the back is 2 open pieces because we secure up the back middle seam at the end. The next job is to attach the facing. So either you're going to go and iron on your interfacing to your facings, or we will move on with what I'm doing, which is to line it with the same fabric. So what I'm doing is, here are my facings. I'm going to pin them together, and I'm going to do a tiny zigzag stitch along the outside edge of both pieces. I'm not going to flip it through because it will make it too bulky inside. I'm just going to really, really gently zigzag round so you still get the same shape, because also the way we attach these will enclose most of the seams anyway. So I'm going to pin these together, do my little zigzags, and then I'm just going to attach them at the shoulders just like we did for the top. Really simple this stage, even simpler if you're not doing what I'm doing, even simpler if you are interfacing your garment. I have just kind of lined my facings, as it were. So as you can see, they're still very neat. They've got a nice row of zigzag stitching, about 1/8 of an inch in, really close. And what I've done, the reason I do it back there and not right on the edge, is so I can still see all the markings I've cut. But then it holds it together as one piece, iron it out. This is one of the back facings, so if I show you the front, still sits lovely and flat. You still get the right impression. So that's where your facing is going to go. And then we've got our 2 back ones that are high, and this is the centre back here. So this will be open. And this is top of the hook and eye, and then the seam will start here. So we're going to attach these now at the shoulders, and then that's our last step with just the facings, and then we start working them together. Now I have my top, which is joined at the shoulder seams. Here we go. And then I have my facings, which are also now joined at the shoulder seams. With the facings, we've again used a 1.5 cm or a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we've pressed these open. I'm going to quickly clip off extra threads now, so that both sides are neat, because viscose does fray, and I've learnt from last time that you do need to keep on top of it. And then we're going to go on to the next stage, which is we're attaching the facing to the top at the neckline. So you're going to go right sides together, and you're just going to attach it all around this line here. So all the way around the necklines, not just the front. And you're going to do that with a 1.5 cm or a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're going to clip the curve to make sure we can fold it over and it sits evenly. So here we are, I've attached them. You can see the second row of stitching here, underneath where I've stitched my lining, and on the back, there we go.
That's our top layer of stay stitching and then our actual layer. So then I've clipped into the curve to make sure that when I turn this through, it'll be a lovely smooth neckline. So I'm just going to give this another press, but when I turn it through, I'll just show you. Obviously it's not pressed yet, but you get this lovely clean line. Our seams are perfectly together. And this should make a really lovely top. Third outfit change in this vlog, doing well. I have finished work now and I'm officially on annual leave for a week, woo! And we don't have much left to do. So I left you this morning with our facings stitched on to the main top. Now what we need to do is understitch the facings. So first of all, we're going to press them open and then we're going to understitch about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little further, through the seam allowance in the facing, so it sits lovely and flat. Here we are. Facings have been understitched. And I'm actually quite proud. This has come out a lot better than the first time I did it, which is nice. It's nice to improve every time you make something. So if I show you, see my nice, the creases don't help, so I'm going to go press these now. But yeah, so I've got my nice row of understitching, and that goes through the facing and the seam allowance, but not the actual top itself. So if I turn it round, you will see not a stitch in sight, but you do get pulled back a lovely, very clean edge. So I'm going to go press this, and then we will start attaching facings to various other seams. One thing just to highlight, as I'm not doing this, if you would like to add a rouleau loop and button, you would need to do that at this next stage before you secure the back facings down, otherwise there's nowhere for it to go. So just an FYI, if that's something with this pattern you want to do, now is the time to do it. So I'm going to go iron this. Now we have to attach our facing. So you can see I've now ironed that and we have a lovely crisp edge. There is actually nothing I love more as I've got better at facings than seeing like perfect facings on tops. And what I like about this one is there's no flappy bits left over like on the inside. There's nothing to get tucked up by accident. It all gets included in the top. So next step is we're going to pin the armhole facing. So to do that, we need to pull them through, even after we've pressed them, I know. I need to pull them through and we will stitch them. So this confused me the first time, so I'll try and show you guys properly on the desk. So this is the top right way round, right side facing up. We're going to open the facing and pull it back on itself so it's right sides together. Open it out, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, all the way around. And then right sides together, we're going to stitch the facing round the armhole like so. So we're right sides together, and then at the end we will flip it through. So I'll pin that quickly so you guys can see what it looks like. So we match our shoulder seams first. There it is, matched. So then we're going to match our edges. I'm going to match those. And so then we end up with this. So as you can see, facing is on top, right sides together, and then we're going to open out and make sure the back is pinned. So then you end up with this. So let's do some pinning. Here we are, we have sewed our faces together. Now this is a really fun bit of this pattern because I was convinced it wouldn't work and I was like, what are these people talking about? You need to take one of the back edges and you're going to feed it through. Now if you want, you can use a safety pin, pop a safety pin at the end. I'm not, just because of how thin my fabric is. So if I hold it up like this, you can see the sleeve tube. So we're going to take one of the back halves and we're going to feed it through the arm and the top of the strap, And I would recommend having a hand the other side to catch it, so you end up in this sort of Chinese finger trap-esque version of creating a top. So nearly there. And oh, look at that, and it comes straight through. Ooh, and it has a little pop at the end, which is quite satisfying. And then there we are. So if I do one side, we're then going to press it, obviously, but there we go. There's a fully enclosed top, which I think is really awesome. And then the sides are the same. Now we are starting to have something that actually resembles a top, which is very exciting. So here we are, still in 3 pieces. That's where the next stage comes in. So unhelpful because I'm wearing something dark underneath, but it will sit beautifully like that. Now, next step is side seams. So what we're going to do, as I'll show you on this side, is we're going to pull up, put top inside out, and we're going to pull up the facings on each side. So we need right side to right side, that's a good place to start. Put them together. You're going to match your corners. And then lift the facings. There we go, match the next seam. Match the facings. And then you're going to stitch all the way down this long edge here. I'm going to then finish my seam with pinking shears just to make sure that the viscose doesn't fray. So we'll pin this, sew it, and then we will have basically our top, and then there's only one more seam to go. So pin, sew, I'll time lapse it because it's a little bit boring, it's just a side seam. But we're so nearly there. This is a really fun sew, and it's a really nice way to end my day after work actually. It's something different to do. So we're at the machine now, we're stitching down our side seams, and crucially you want to make sure when you flip the facing up that you're also, so you're starting the stitching from the facings matching at the top all the way down through, and then you get a lovely neat corner. Nearly done. We've got 2 things left to do, and then we're going to have a beautiful top. Well, 3 things technically. So we need to sew our back seams together. Now again, we're going to turn our top inside out, so right sides together, line up those back seams, and unlike the other time, we're not going to flip our facings. We're going to make sure we sew right up to join the facings at the bottom, and then we have that lovely enclosed seam here for the open element at the top. So just make sure you sew up in line to catch both seam edges, and that will be our top constructed. And then we're going to hem. Now I'm going to talk about the hem now because realistically I'm going to do it all in a oneer because it's just easier. We're using a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance as per usual on the back for the back seam, as we have everywhere else. But for the hem, there's a couple of ways you can do this. The way I'm going to do it is you need a 1 centimetre hem, and then ideally you need to double it. However, you can make that judgment based on your fabric as to what works best. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a line of stitches 1 centimetre in, or 3/8 of an inch in, all the way along my hem. And then I'm going to press that, I'm going to press back on that line, and then I'm actually going to hand roll half of it under and stitch along that. So I end up with a tiny, really neat rolled hem. The reason I'm doing that is partially because I think it gives a nicer effect on this top, but also because this is incredibly light, and if I put a big bulky hem on it, it's going to look really weird. So we are so nearly there, and then there's a little bit of hand sewing to finish. So join me at the machine, we're going to have some fun, finish this top off. We're at the sewing machine and it's hem time. So if I show you my little marked out hem, it's really nice and neat. I'd normally hand roll it, however, this fabric is so slippy and so light that I was like, you know what, I'm not taking a chance, I'm just going to pin it, and I'm going to pin it mercilessly. So there's a lot of pins in here. I'm now concerned that half of them are going to end up on the floor, so I might have to hoover before my partner gets back. And I thought it'd be nice to just have a chat to you guys, because I've not been super chatty in this vlog. Because I've been so busy with work. So I'm actually now on annual leave, officially. This is the first leave I've had since I started my job. Now, obviously, I know some people will be saying, you're working from home, that's like leave. No, it's not. I've worked more hours than I would have normally, so it's been a really busy time. And I am very excited to get some leave in, so let's start then. So I'm just sewing gently down the middle. It's going to be slow. I've got to take all the pins that I've thrown in out as I go. I've really got used to this machine. So I got it up to like properly full whack earlier when I was doing the zigzags. It makes the desk shake a little bit because the motor's a lot more powerful than my last machine. But it is really just like the kind of technical side. I honestly was on FaceTime to my mum and I showed her the one-step buttonhole on FaceTime because I was so excited, and she thought it was pretty awesome too. I am going to do a video, I filmed half of it, introducing you guys to my singer, but I just want to make sure I do it justice. So there's a few other little functions I want to try before I finish the video, because yeah, I want to make sure I'm showing you guys this machine at its best, and anything I think is a problem, I just want to make sure that it is a problem rather than it actually just being me being slightly useless. It's so hard to keep this stuff tucked under. It's absolutely... Right, so I'm going to take a slightly different approach because it's still slipping out. I'm going to hand fold it, take the pins out earlier, and just hand roll it. I did a proper little rolled hem on that red batwing top I showed you guys recently, and it is like, I'm really proud of the hem on that actually. So both that project and this one are made from remnants from Sew Me Sunshine. They will be featuring on the blog. I have to say, really impressed by the packaging. And both of these I bought were remnants, so I would say their remnants are really good quality and they've got a really good selection. So definitely go and check out the remnants bin. I think they'd be too expensive for me normally, but definitely like the remnants and sale are 100% worth a look. But I'm getting used to this machine now. It's hard, I think, to swap when you've used a different one for so long, but I'm actually really getting to grips with it. I'm enjoying sewing in this machine. It's fun. It's both louder and less loud. It's got more bass to the sound, but my John Lewis machine used to be quite shrill, and it would really like whine when you got it up to like full foot down, really just going for it sewing. You could hear it from outside the house. It was so loud. Now thinking about it, 4 years I never got it serviced. I probably should have, but the thing is with the John Lewis ones, it's very hard to get into them. So, you know, it's one of those things really. And oh yes, we are. So a little bit of back stitch. And we are done. We have reached our final stage of the process. Woo! We have our tops. They look gorgeous. They have a gorgeous silhouette, and I'm very excited to wear mine. It will be giving the fabric work suitable, but also lovely for the summer. And I don't own very many white garments because I don't really trust myself. Anyway, the last stage is to attach your button if you're doing a rouleau loop, or your hook and eye if you're following the same way I'm doing. I'm going to do it on a time lapse because no one wants to sit and watch somebody hand sewing, really, come on. I'm not showing anything. Make sure, the only thing I'll say is make sure your hook is on the right and that it's facing towards the inside of the garment. So that way around, it's facing that way, okay? So we're going to get sewing and then we'll have a finished garment.
I hope you've enjoyed today's sew along. I am very new to doing them, but let me know in the comments below if you had fun, if you enjoyed it, if you've got any questions, let me know. And subscribe if you want to see more from me, and give this video a little like to help me on my way. So I'll see you guys next time.